Hello everyone, it's Linda from Linda Z's. Welcome to our Thursday morning coffee, tea, or whatever your favorite is. I want to tell you again how thankful we are for those of you that came to the Greater Wisconsin Quilt Show. Please be patient with us. We had no idea there was going to be that much of a unbelievable buying storm and our staff is working really hard. We've hired some new people. We're even looking for more and we are getting your orders out. Teresa, our marketing person, has been just marvelous with sending you out notices. I hope you've gotten them about be patient with us. The orders are coming. There is this wonderful, awful, whatever you call it, thing in today's new normal, and it's called back order. We cannot keep things in stock. Our manufacturers they're probably much worse than we are. We order very heavily, and we ordered heavily for this show, but what happened is that many of those things got sold immediately, and now back orders are out there. So just be patient with us. Your order will get that great discount, and you will definitely be getting your product. Now, I want to turn to a couple of fun things. Something that is amazing to me, you know probably that during this COVID time that we did hundreds of, just thousands of masks, and we are still needing masks. Today, I believe Tracy took over, I don't know, a couple hundred, I think, to Alexin Brothers. Many of the hospitals still need them because they have all these clinics and all these different arenas. And many of these people coming in, truly, they do need a mask when they leave. They might have a paper mask, but then they need to have a good mask that they can go and wash. So those of you that have extras, we have that drop-off box in our front foyer. We can't thank you enough, and I mean that from the bottom of our hearts. We have had such a great response, and they need them in all sizes. In the small, the kid size, the medium, the very extra large are real hard to find. So anything you can do like that will just be very much appreciated. Now, we're going to have a wonderful little program. It's not going to be long, so this isn't a real big program, but I do want to tell you a couple of things that I have behind me that are really pretty cool. This is something that is, I don't know if Nick, if you can get this in there or where you want me to put it to see it, but it is just fabulous. This is the new OESD program. They usually do this every year, and it starts at the Christmas season or the holiday season. And this one has got, it's got cards on it, it's greetings. It's called the Holiday Celebration. You can see it here, and it just really is wonderful. And what's great about it is that all these designs, and look at all the different ones on the back, stockings, and there's quilt designs, there's quilt card designs. All of these designs are free if you purchase $79 worth of product from OESD on our site or at our store. And then we'll send you this September design. We're going to have one for September, for October, and for November. This is out right now. It'll probably be sold out in the next week. So it's one of my favorite. So if you want it, I believe what you would have to do is call the store for this, okay? That's 847-394-4590. You've heard that enough, I'm sure. Now, I have a couple of other things, and we're going to do some border fabric today for a tablecloth. But before I get into it, I'm going to show you something that a very smart person designed, and I just love it. It is a bias kit, and what you do, and I've tried it, I'm actually going to do a little video on this, but not today. There's a clamp that I can put on the end of my ironing board, and then there is this wheel, and I can take, and I know I put just a small piece to show you because I'm not going to do the full demo, and this is a bias, it's a little bias holder, and you can bring it in. Let's put the right side so you can see it. You can bring it in like this, and then you just take your pin. It's real easy to do. These magnetic pins are great. And you just pull it out from the inside, and watch what's going to happen. Voila! You now have the folded bias tape. It's just phenomenal. You put a little pin at the beginning, and then you do yards and yards of this, and it will all come out folded. I put this clamp with this wheel on my ironing board, and then I take my iron and I press this, and I put it on the wheel and it rolls it up as I am doing the binding. If you ever done a big quilt, a king size quilt, it will hold that much, and had it, you know, twist on you and roll and everywhere which way. That can be wound on here, and then you can put it on your quilt later. And what we've done, we just think that you guys have been so great, so I try to give you some kind of really great special. This is over a $40 set, and if you've ever bought any of these bias binders, they're usually a lot more. But the whole 3 pieces is over 40. And if you call the store, you do have to call the store for this, you will be able to purchase all 3 of them in a kit for $24.95. That's unheard of, so it's way over 30% off. And we have a limited amount. We have, I love this red, the dark red. We have a gray, and we have a turquoise, and a pink. 4 colors. So you have to do that pretty quick if you're going to get them, because I think they will be sold out. Now let's get into what I'm going to do today. Most of you know that I love this Bernina, this new one. This is the new Bernina 850. The 890 is not here yet. Well, we do have 2 to show you, but the 850 does not have a cover lock, but it has a wonderful overlock. And if you look at this, what do you see here? This blue and this red. It's an air threader. Now, what I did, and the tablecloth that's on this table I made, I don't know if you can see any of the edges here, but you can see there. This is a border tablecloth. It's a border print. And I didn't have to seam it because it was real wide. But I do suggest when you do some of these things, try to use a border print, because it's so easy to seam it down the middle and then you don't really see it, and it's very easy to put together. But I'm going to show you a couple techniques on this new Bernina and tell you why I love it so much. The things that I do, especially at holiday time, I like to do some of the glitzy threads. I mean, I think they're more fun and they sparkle a little, and you're not using them all year round, so it's not like you're going to use them every single day and then they're going to fray and everything. They really won't. So what I did is I took this candlelight. And candlelight is a thread. You can see it's got quite a few little pieces, little tinsels that are put together. And then I took a spool of glide. And if you look on my threader here, you'll see here's the glide and here's the candlelight. Only 2 spools, that's it. 2 spools of thread and an embroidery thread with a real glitzy 5 or 6 twisted threads of candlelight. I could have also used this, which I did, and I'm going to show you some samples on it. This is called the Razzle Dazzle, and we have that in quite a few colors too, which is really fun. I'm just going to see. On the Razzle Dazzle, I did use the net. You'll notice on this one, I do not have a net. I didn't need it, but you know, if you need it, you want to put it on, because that keeps it from, you know, getting all scrolled up. In order to really get your threads working properly, if you come back and look at the front of the machine, I want you to see what I did. Again, I only have 2 threads in here, and I'm doing something called a 2-thread overwrap. And if you look at this machine, you'll see this is a you look at the back and then you look at the front here, you will see that this thread is very metallic-y. And all I did is cut it very sharply at an angle, and I put it up here, and the whole entire thing, and here, let me take my little thread catcher off so you can see this. And you can actually see this thread in here, this gold thread that came through the looper. It's just amazing. Many times, see right in here is the looper, and then it comes right through here and out through the back of the machine. Normally, when I am working with decorative threads on my other sergers, I have to do a little loop and bring the thread through manually. Every single time, whether I was using this thread, which is, you can almost see the fuzz on it. It's, boy, when I counted, probably 10 little fibers in there. Or any of these, the Razzle Dazzles. These are some of the wonderful Razzle Dazzles too. This is another one that's really fun. It's got all kinds of silver in it and pink and, you know, just really fun things. Well, normally when I would do that, I would have to take that loop, like I say, and manually thread it. On this machine, whoosh, went right through. So I just loved it. It was just so much fun. And this glide, if you've never used glide before, it's really fun. This is a little more Actually, I probably, if I do this again, I might change it to this color. It looks a little bit better. And if you look at this tablecloth, this is something that you do want to look at before you start your project. You, of course, want to figure out what kinds of threads, especially if they're decorative. And this gold that is in here is really more of a bronzy. It's not really bronze, but it's a duller gold rather than this real bright gold. And I don't know if you can see that on there. So this is why I tried a couple of them, and I'll show you one. This is actually one of the rolled edges, a 2-thread wrap, and it is a real bright gold. And then I've got another one here that I did in the, let's see which one I've got here. I don't have it there, so I'll show you that in a moment. You can see the real bright gold is a little bit, it's really not as, it's too bright for this inside part. And that's why I went with this one with the candlelight. So just have fun with this. It's really great to be able to take these great embroidery threads and try whatever you like, because now if you've got a serger like this, and these are still on special, we just got, those of you, I think everybody got theirs so far that has been purchase from us, but if you haven't, make sure you call. We do have a special on them. Call Mary or Debbie. Both of them are very versed in this machine, and they'll be glad to show it to you. Quite frankly, I was waiting for the 890, but I really have fallen in love with this machine. I've done quite a few tablecloths, and I think that they're going to be just spectacular with what they're doing. So let me get to it and show you exactly. I'm going to turn this machine back up. I'm going to turn this little piece on. This knob over here is to the right because that means it's ready for sewing. If I wanted to thread it with the air threading, which I've already done because I've been sewing on it, I would have turned it to the left and just put it on there and stepped on my foot, and it would go right through. And then this is your tools on board, which I love because they're right here where I need them. So I'm going to close that up. I love this little catcher. I do have a fabric catcher. I have a couple sergers, and they're really wonderful, the other ones too. But this catcher is one of the things I love the most. It is really easy. And the other thing that I've really come to love, because here's what I've done with this. This is a tablecloth for, I'm using it on my kitchen table. It's a kind of a trestle table, and it's in our big great room, and it's quite long. It's 78, it's 110 inches long. And then I also have a dining room table, so I've taken this same fabric and I've made it there. Now, I don't go by the tablecloth regular sizes. You want to take a nice tape measure and measure your length of your tablecloth, and then do a drop on the bottom. Now the drop, there's no, you know, right, you could do a 10-inch drop or an 8-inch or a 12-inch. That's always nice, but here's the problem with that. This width just goes across my table, both my trestle table and my dining room table, and it gives me a 6-inch drop. That's not a lot, but then I don't have to seam it. If I had to seam it, then I would make my drop a little bit longer. So I measure the length, and then I figure out the drop. And because this drop on this particular fabric is only about 6 inches, see what I'm doing at the machine here? This is the selvage, and I'm actually going to leave a little, which I would never do normally. I'm going to leave a little bit of the selvage on here because I want it to, I want that selvage to be cut off, and I don't want to use too much. Now, do you see how quiet that machine is? I mean, it's just amazing how quiet it is. I'm going to show you a sample because I've done it already over here. Do you see how I've sewn off the edge on here? You might be able to see it a little bit better. See, I've gone off the edge. Now I'll take that into the machine, and I'll go off this side and go down here, and I'll sew off the edge. And then I'll go down this side I've already done, and I'll do the same side. I'll show you why. I have a sample here. Now this is a different kind of stitch. This is something, actually Mary was playing with this, and she did a rolled hem. I believe she did it was a rolled hem, but it was with a different type of setting. See, you can get very creative when you start doing this. You don't have to do whatever the settings are in the book. There is a wonderful little cheat sheet that shows you all of the settings. And you can see down here we did the 3 thread. This is a 2, but on here we did a 3 thread, which here's how it turned out because we didn't do the rolled hem part of it. There's a little knob on the inside, and if you haven't seen this before, you know what, I can just take this out because I want you to be able to see what I'm talking about. And what's so great about this machine, I actually have a knee lift lever here, and I can go ahead and pull it out and don't have to even raise the foot. Oops, I'm going to cut this here. Now watch what I can do here. When I raise that foot, I can bring that right out. And you see how easy it is to pull it out, go back in, pull it out, go back in. It's one of the coolest things that you could possibly have when you're doing your threading. Now, what I would do when I go across the thread, the seam, do you see how I have these thread stitching out from each edge? Well, this is the best little tool you could ever have. And you do want, this is my ballpoint pin. It's one of the best little pins because it's very strong. And I always take it right in the center of this fray check. You see how I'm going down there? Pulling it back out, and I keep this somewhere where I know it's going to be for my fray check. And now I'm going to go and put a little dab of this right on the end, and a little dab here on the end. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. Little dab right on the end. Same thing over here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this dry because I don't want to cut it yet. See, I'm actually going to take my scissor and a little one here, and I'm going to trim that right off. But the key for fray check is to let it dry. And sometimes I will let it dry for an hour because then I know that it's going to be great. See, what it does is it acts like a little fabric glue, only it's not fabric glue, so don't use that. And what it does is it holds the fibers in place because these have a lot of metallic fibers in them. And once I cut that off, those fibers could go kind of crazy on you. So this fray check is really your friend. You're going to really love it. I try and put the cap back on it right away so it doesn't dry out. I'm going to show you another one that I've done. This is actually a 2-thread wrap. What I do is I take all kinds of scraps before I do anything, and I try it on the fabric that I'm doing if I have some leftover fabric, because I want to know, do I want it real narrow? Do I want it wider like this? Or do if I do a different type of thread, I will actually do a miter. I take my hand wheel will go down, and the way I can put that needle down is just to tap the foot, and boom, the needle will go right into the fabric. On a real loosely woven one like this, I don't do that. I sew off the edge. I use my fray check, and it works beautifully. And here's a sample of the corner. I don't know if you can see that up close. I can actually take it out of the plastic so you can see it a little bit better. And I think this will give you an idea. Now the fray check has dried. I put a staple in there. And you can see on the corner here, I did actually go off this edge. Then I went down this edge, so I had tails, and I fray checked this. And I'll tell you another little secret. When you're doing a long tablecloth like this, I take that fray check right at my machine. When I'm coming to the edge of the fabric, and say this is it's a big long cloth, and I come right to the edge, before I turn the corner, after I've gone off, I actually will fray check it right then. Because that way, I don't put too much on it, but that way it's drying as it's going along. It's not getting on anything. It's not real, pliable where it would do that. But look at the beautiful corner you have. And that's what we really want you to accomplish when you're doing this. Now, again, I have another one that I'm going to show you the way it would look. And this would be as if it's too large to do a great big tablecloth here, but I did a little sample to show you. And sometimes what I do is I will take a rag and put underneath it. I'm not going to do that right here. They probably won't like it on my wonderful Quilter Select, but you see I'm putting a little tab there. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to put a little dab, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other corner, that little dab. And you see all those fibers sticking out? And the same thing over here. Now, I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to give it another little plug of, it dries clear. so you don't have to worry about it. Over here on the other corner, and then on this corner. Now, you could use your iron, but if you would, I would recommend a Teflon because you don't want any glue sticking on there. So I'm going to wait for a few minutes before I'm done here, and then I'm going to show you how I cut it. This is another technique that I think is really important when you're doing the tablecloth edges. This particular one, if you can see it up close, I tried both. Now, the thing is, when I tried this, I used this thread, which is your razzle dazzle. I did my stitch length at 2.5 because when you do a overwrap, you don't have much thread, you see, and it could come off your fabric. So it's very important that you get the right length and the right width. And of course, the width is what we've done when we put the 2 thread in. Now, this edge is actually the candle wick. And you see how it's a little duller? It blends in a little bit more, and that's why I really chose to go with the little duller one on this. And then I write this on the sample. Now, the only problem with this, and I want you to look at this carefully because when you're doing samples like this is actually the fabric that I used. Now, do you see the difference? This is very thin fabric. This is probably the thinnest cotton you could find. It's almost like a lawn, very, very soft. For this machine to be able to sew that seam like that, it's almost unbelievable to me, because this is probably, if you had 2 layers, it would be fine. But when you have a single layer, most sergers, quite frankly, won't be able to do that. So now look at the difference between this fabric and this one. This is a heavier fabric. This is the finer fabric. So when you do your stitching, we did this just to see what we wanted to do with the thread, but you can't use those settings on this because of the fact I might want to make the stitch length a little closer because this is very fine, or because the fabric is so fine, I might want to change the differential a little bit. Even though this has all been done with automatic tension, I did not have to change any tensions on this machine. I still like to make my adjustments to make it look the way I like it, to make it look personalized. So, you know, I hope that helps you a little bit. I think it's a wonderful thing to be able to personalize, and you want to have experience with a serger that's fun. How many out there have looked at a serger before and said, oh, not me, I'm a quilter. There's no way I'm going to do that. Well, moi, at one time. I've been using sergers now for many, many years, and I can't even tell you how much I love them. They're just fabulous. So I hope you'll, you know, indulge in them a little bit and have fun. And this glide thread, you wouldn't need to use glide. If you remember in the past, we have Cerakote, which is a really good thread. We have a whole big rack with every color that there is. The glide is a little bit shiny, and it's a little bit slippery. But look at how beautifully the machine handled it. And that's what's so fabulous. I want to show you one last thing. Now, this has been pretty well dried. And I like to take, sometimes, depends on the width of what I'm doing. I'm going to get some of these fabrics out of here. And I'm going to show you how nice it is to do this with a, rather than just a scissor, because you want to get this real square. And so when I take this, and I can take this ruler right up at the edge of the seam, I want to make sure it's nice and straight. And then the same way with the bottom, it's nice and straight. And you take this, if you've never used this, boy, I would suggest you do it. It's phenomenal. This is a weighted rotary cutter. And it's for people so that you don't get carpal tunnel, or if you have it, it's weighted so that when I'm going to sew with this, when I'm going to use this, all I do is I push this button in and it's ready to go. And watch how I go straight across. And then tap it and it closes it. Voila, it's all gone. And look at how nice and even this corner is now. I'll do the same thing over here. You know what, I'm going to leave this one because this would be good for Mary to show. But I'll show you on another piece of fabric. I'll take this one, and you notice I'm not using the lines on the mat. This is a great mat. In fact, want to do something you've probably never even seen before. See what I'm doing? If I used any other mat, now look at what happened. It just recovered. You would never be able to do that. I use the lines on the ruler, not the lines on the mat. Okay, so I've got that pretty well squared up, pretty well. I'm going to give her a little bit more fabric. She might want to change, write something else on there. And then again, I can tap it just slightly, and now the blade is open, and I can go right across, and I always turn it because now it's closed. It's completely closed. Okay, see how nice that is? And now I'm going to put a little fray check on there so that it doesn't go anywhere, and I can show how we go off the edges. I think I'm pretty well finished with some of the techniques for you today. I hope they've helped you. You know, I know that it's difficult when you're doing some of these things by virtual and by video, but we have a wonderful staff that is there to help you. So if you've got questions, you know, just be patient with them. They will get back to you. I love your questions, by the way. They've just been fabulous. And it doesn't mean if I'm not personally answering them and I don't see them, I just want to thank you for that. I really mean that. They have been great. It helps me to know if I'm really reaching you and if this is something that you really like. So I think it's time to sign off. I will be back next Thursday, and have a wonderful week sewing. Thank you, everybody.